AI image creation with Google has basically turned into three bros trying to prove who's got the best moves in the house. For this tutorial, I'm staying completely inside the Google ecosystem and comparing the three power tools in Google Flow: Nano Banana Pro, Nano Banana 2, and Nano Banana 2 Lite. Before I get into a few technical details about Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite Image, which is more or less the official name behind Nano Banana 2 Lite, and show you how you can use one of these three AI image models, let's first check out a couple of use cases from my longer test runs, just to get a feel for what each model can actually do. What you're seeing here follows a pretty simple setup. On the far left, you've got the result from Nano Banana Pro. In the middle, it's Nano Banana 2, and on the far right, it's Nano Banana 2 Lite. The prompt was exactly the same every single test run. We're kicking things off with a pretty dynamic scene. The prompt was basically this: a high-energy sports shot of a basketball player sprinting right past the camera at close range, with strong foreground motion blur to really sell that fast, immersive sense of speed. One thing I wanted very deliberately was for the basketball itself to stay absolutely sharp and in perfect focus. Here's the result from Nano Banana 2 Lite. Here's Nano Banana 2, and here's Nano Banana Pro. Honestly, all three are strong, but Nano Banana 2 Lite gets a little extra boost when it comes to integrating text and fine details. I also think the way the player sits in the frame is just a bit smarter there, because it leaves you some nice space on the left for a headline without having to jump into image editing first. The next step was pretty much unavoidable, as you can probably imagine. I used the image from the first test round as the image reference and gave it this prompt: change the person in the image into a bright yellow banana-shaped AI robot. Keep the camera angle, lighting, background, shadows, and overall composition exactly the same. Nano Banana 2 Lite gets basically everything right. The same goes for Nano Banana 2, although the robot's shape feels a little more independent, especially with that claw-like hand on the right. Nano Banana Pro definitely has its own take on it too, but for me, the result feels a bit weird. It seems like Pro decided the robot itself was enough, and that matching sneakers or a basketball jersey weren't really part of the deal. So yeah, my favorite here is Nano Banana 2 Lite again. The next test was about turning the basketball arena into a snowy outdoor scene, with the banana robot running through the snow and snow swirling up around its legs and along its path of motion. So I used the edited image from test 2 as the reference, mainly to see what kind of quality drop you can expect once you start doing repeated edits on top of each other. And as we can see here, Nano Banana 2 Lite takes a pretty noticeable hit, especially when it comes to the jersey and the basketball. On top of that, the whole image starts drifting a bit toward a not-so-great 3D render look. Nano Banana 2 gives a decent result, no question, but in this round, Nano Banana Pro delivers the best one in the set, simply because it feels the most believable. With test 4, we're getting into trickier territory. There are basically three things that really matter here: light and reflections, text and language, including how believable each restaurant feels for its specific language, and then of course the mouse holding that crusty homemade sign right into the camera. All three versions have their place, no doubt, but in this case, Nano Banana 2 doing its usual thing of pushing extra detail and stronger contrast actually works a bit against it. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably go with Nano Banana 2 Lite, because the whole vibe, the overall look and feel, just comes together a little more naturally here. Now we're jumping to the suburbs. It's raining, a guy's standing in front of his house that's up for sale, holding an umbrella in one hand and a remote in the other, like he's about to open the garage door. The result from Nano Banana 2 Lite is decent, and once again, the darker and more contrast-heavy look from Nano Banana 2 doesn't really help here. The light on the person and the sign just doesn't feel all that believable. Nano Banana Pro, on the other hand, gets the whole thing right. You can even make out the wood grain on the sign. If you work with video AI and want consistent characters, you probably know these grids already. The whole point is to get 6 different views of the same person in one image, so the AI has solid reference angles to work with. To build this grid, I used the previous image of the man in front of the house and ran it again with an adjusted prompt. No matter how many times I tried it, Nano Banana 2 Lite keeps struggling with this task. This here was still the best result I got. You can see it especially in the straight front view, the angled view, and most of all in the top-down version. Nano Banana 2 also starts to drift a bit, and every now and then it doesn't even stick to the grid properly. Nano Banana Pro feels the most natural here, so for me, at least right now, every grid I'm making still comes from Nano Banana Pro. The next task was another tough one, because this one really tests image understanding and how well the model can read map-based spatial information. The input was just a screenshot from Google Maps. The prompt was basically, using the provided map screenshot as the spatial and composition reference, create a photorealistic drone shot looking diagonally downward at the building and its surrounding shoreline. I didn't mention in the prompt what the place actually was, so the AI had to pull all the information straight out of the image itself. And if you've ever been to Sydney, you'll know right away that the Opera House does not look like this. So for Nano Banana 2 Lite, that's a clean 0 points from me. Nano Banana 2 delivers a pretty solid result, even though there are a few smaller issues, like the missing pier and some freestyle interpretation in the park area. With Nano Banana Pro, you might think at first glance that the result looks right, but in reality, neither this building exists, nor does the surrounding infrastructure actually match. And since we're already here, every architect needs an architectural plan sooner or later. So I took the image from the previous test and used this prompt. Using the provided reference image, create a professional architectural plan sheet of this building, as if prepared by an architectural office. Nano Banana 2 Lite starts interpreting, mixes different styles, and stays pretty vague. Nano Banana 2, on the other hand, gives us a much more accurate result. Sure, a real architect would probably throw their hands up in despair, but at first glance it does look believable. Nano Banana Pro, meanwhile, seems to get stuck in some kind of copy-paste loop, followed by the question, wait, what was the task again? If you know a bit about Sydney's history, you'll know the Opera House was built between 1959 and 1973, and for that time period, a classic comic book style actually fits pretty well, especially with architect Jorn Utzon dressed like a detective and standing in front of his own building. So the prompt was basically, using the provided reference image, meaning the architectural plan from the previous test, create a single scene illustration in a classic comic book style. Nano Banana 2 Lite goes all in and delivers a really strong result. Nano Banana 2 is a little more restrained, while Nano Banana Pro seems to think in a more photorealistic way, almost like a comic layer placed over a photo. If I compare all three, Nano Banana 2 Lite has that little extra something, so that's the one I'd go with here. I'm pretty sure most people have heard the name Ernest Hemingway. He's the author of The Old Man and the Sea, a story about the old Cuban fisherman Santiago, who finally catches a huge marlin after a long dry spell. Then he spends days fighting to bring it home, but on the way back, sharks tear almost the whole fish apart. And still, even after all that, Santiago keeps his dignity and his pride. And that's exactly the vibe behind this storyboard. The task, in short, was to create a 3x3 storyboard grid and tell a coherent visual story about an old fisherman who heads out to sea alone, catches a great marlin, but loses most of it on the way home. To keep it short, Nano Banana 2 Lite gets a lot right here. The boat, the character, the overall realism. It also does a really nice job blending day and night across the sequence. Nano Banana 2 feels a bit flatter and has a few smaller issues. For example, the boat has a motor in one panel and then suddenly not in another. Nano Banana Pro, though, gets almost everything right again, and it brings along that really fitting vibe of a real documentary. The next test dives into text, reflections, and a changing identity. We see a young cowboy standing in front of a mirror, raising his drink toward his reflection. But the face staring back at him isn't young at all. It's an old man. So this one is really about getting the clothing right, getting the pose right, and making the whole thing work inside a smoky bar filled with soft, diffused light. Nano Banana 2 Lite does a really solid job here, even if the pose of the two hands doesn't line up perfectly. What works especially well, though, is the atmosphere and those extra reflections of other people in the mirror. Nano Banana 2 once again goes that extra mile with contrast and saturation, which makes the whole thing feel a bit more like a 3D render, even though the actual execution is still pretty consistent. Nano Banana Pro also brings across a very distinct vibe, but it loses some points because the man in front of the mirror looks older too, and is suddenly wearing a different jacket. A lot of text, mixed with rich illustration and placed inside the right kind of setting, is a pretty tough job. In this next test, the goal was to recreate a diary entry from Robert Edwin Peary's 1909 expedition based on historical facts. Nano Banana 2 Lite does an absolutely fantastic job when it comes to the overall image aesthetic. The downside is that a lot of the text turns into complete nonsense. Nano Banana 2 gives us a decent result, but once again it feels a bit too saturated, if you want to put it that way. And here too, most of the writing is basically unusable. With Nano Banana Pro, the text is mostly correct, but the way it's been styled makes the whole thing feel less like a real historical document. The font just looks way too digital. So in this case, the prompt and all those little details would need another round of fine-tuning. If you've ever been to Darwin, you've probably heard about the disaster that hit the city on Christmas in 1974. Cyclone Tracy. And by the way, there's a really worth-seeing exhibition in Darwin. If you ever make it there, you should definitely check out the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory. It gives you a very direct feel for the sheer force of something like that. The prompt for this task actually assumes quite a bit of background knowledge, because it was simply this: show the image on Christmas morning 1974 in Darwin. Nano Banana 2 Lite, Nano Banana 2, and Nano Banana Pro all give those events from back then a pretty powerful visual face. Not much more needs to be said. We're wrapping up this test series with something pretty wild. The prompt was super simple. Create a new image using these 3 images. Those 3 images were the guy with the umbrella from earlier, a photographer wearing an orange beanie in front of a white background, and this yak herder standing in the snow. So at that point, it was completely up to the AI image model to decide which of those 3 motifs should carry the most weight. Nano Banana 2 Lite puts the focus on the house, takes the snow from the yak scene, and pulls in the jacket and beanie from the photographer. Nano Banana 2 stays up in the mountains. The herder suddenly gets a camera, a backpack, and the umbrella. Nano Banana Pro also sticks to the snowy highland setting. The photographer comes into play, while the yak herder ends up with the face and the umbrella of the man in front of the house. All in all, these are some really interesting interpretations. Now just a few quick words about Nano Banana 2 Lite, or Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite Image, as it's officially called. While we're at it, let's run one full uncut test with the prompt, show the image on July 20th, 1969, during the first moon landing broadcast. Nano Banana 2 Lite takes around 9 seconds, Nano Banana 2 around 18 seconds, and Nano Banana Pro around 22 seconds. According to Google, this model is meant to be the fastest and cheapest Gemini image model right now. Its main strengths are speed, low-cost bulk generation, fast local edits, character alignment, prompt adherence, and readable text inside images. The weaker side is that it's not really optimized for a lot of reference images or more complex multi-turn editing. And on top of that, watermarking seems to be active all the time, using Synth ID and C2PA. Let me quickly shine a light on one more thing: resolution. Google says Nano Banana 2 Lite is optimized for lower resolutions of 1K, so 1024 by 1024 pixels. I've put the same image side by side here at 200% zoom. On the far left, we've got Nano Banana Pro, in the middle, Nano Banana 2, and on the right, Nano Banana 2 Lite. All 3 were downloaded using the 2K upscale, so they all come in at 2752 by 1536 pixels. And I don't want to oversell it, but honestly, Nano Banana 2 Lite doesn't look like the lower resolution option here. And finally, here's how it works. Sign in to Google Flow with your Google account, then click New Project at the bottom in the center. Enter your prompt in the prompt bar, open the model selection in the image section on the bottom right, and choose either Nano Banana Pro, Nano Banana 2, or Nano Banana 2 Lite. After that, hit the button with the arrow pointing right, and the image generation starts. That's really all there is to it. So here's my final take. Nano Banana 2 Lite is fast, seriously good, and definitely another step toward even better AI-generated images.
And now, crank it up and enjoy. 3 bros in the flow. 3 bros in the house.
Yeah. Aha. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. 3 bros in the house, everybody wants the crown. Nano Banana 2 Lite just came and shook the whole place down. Pro says I'm the master, I can handle every show. Number 2 says step aside, I bring the extra glow. Lite moves fast, yeah, he's ready for the race. Fresh new contender with a smile upon his face. 3 power tools and they're ready to ignite. Pro, Banana 2 and Banana 2 Lite. 3 bros, 3 moves, 3 ways to make it shine. Google Flow, power tool, put them straight into the line. Same prompt, same round, let the images decide. Pro 2 and Lite now, let the models take the ride. We keep it all Google, yeah, we stay inside the zone. Flow on the screen, every model on its own. Same prompt, same test, now we see who runs the game. 3 different brothers, but the banana stays the name. Nano Banana Pro brings the detail to the floor. Nano Banana 2 always asks for something more. Nano Banana Lite comes in quick and comes in bright. 3 bros in the flow, now let's see who gets it right. Speed on the left, detail on the right. One brings the muscle, one keeps it light. Same ecosystem, same creative fight. 3 bros in the house and the future looks bright. 3 bros, 3 moves, 3 ways to make it shine. Google Flow, power tool, put them straight into the line. Same prompt, same round, let the images decide. Pro 2 and Lite now, let the models take the ride. Nano Banana Pro, Nano Banana 2, Nano Banana 2 Lite. 3 bros in the flow, let the pictures prove who's right.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Your channel, AI. Now you know.